The email comes in around 9:18 p.m. He's sitting on the couch, half watching something he's already seen before. The subject line is short. Your vehicle trade-in value has been updated. He doesn't open it right away. There's no urgency, no problem to solve, just curiosity. A few seconds later, he taps it. The number looks decent. Better than expected, actually. He leans forward slightly, because now something starts forming in his mind. Not a decision, not even a plan, just a quiet thought. Maybe it's time. And that thought feels reasonable, not impulsive, not reckless, just logical. The car is almost 5 years old. It still runs fine, no issues, no stress, but 5 years feels like a natural checkpoint. That's when things start to change. Or at least, that's what it feels like. And this is where something subtle begins. Because nothing about this moment feels expensive. Nothing feels like a financial decision. It feels like maintenance, like keeping things up to date, like staying responsible. And most people don't notice this part. A few days later, it's Saturday afternoon. He's at a dealership, not seriously shopping, just looking. The newer model looks almost identical to his. Slightly sharper lines, a bigger screen, better fuel efficiency, they say. The salesperson mentions how strong the resale market is right now. He nods. That same number from the email is still in his head. Trade-in value. It makes the new price feel smaller, more manageable. And this is where things quietly shift. Because the decision isn't framed as buying a new car. It's framed as upgrading. A difference that sounds small, but changes everything. His current car was about $28,000 when he bought it. He put down around $5,000, financed the rest over 5 years. Monthly payment, about $430. Nothing extreme. Comfortable, even. By now, the loan is nearly paid off. Just a few months left. And that should feel like relief, like margin is about to open up. But instead, something else happens. The idea of what's next shows up before the current cycle even ends. And most people don't notice this part. He makes around $72,000 a year. After taxes, benefits, everything, about $4,200 per month hits his account. Rent is $1,400, utilities, internet, phone, another $300, groceries, $450, insurance, $180, subscriptions, small things, $120, fuel and maintenance for the car, about $200, and the car payment, $430. It all fits. Nothing feels out of control. There's still room for weekends, dinners, occasional travel. On paper, it works. And that's exactly why the pattern continues, because nothing is obviously broken. Nothing demands change. It just repeats. Back at the dealership, he sits inside the newer model. It smells different, feels slightly quieter. The screen responds faster. There's a small sense of improvement, not life-changing, but enough. The salesperson mentions a new financing option. With the trade-in, his monthly payment would be around $480, slightly higher, but the car is newer, safer, more efficient. It makes sense. At least, it sounds like it does. And this is where the hidden pattern starts to become visible. Every 5 years, the cycle resets. New car, new loan, new monthly payment. And each time, the numbers shift just slightly upward. Not dramatically, just enough to keep up with inflation, upgrades, expectations. From 430 to 480, from 480 to maybe 520 next time. It doesn't feel like a jump, it feels like a small step. But over time, those steps stack, quietly. Let's slow this down, because this is where the math starts to tell a different story. Over 5 years, at $480 a month, that's about $28,800. Add the initial down payment, let's say another $5,000. Total, roughly $33,800 for this cycle. Now multiply that across 20 years, 4 cycles. That's around $135,000 spent on cars. And that's assuming the numbers don't increase much, which they usually do. And here's the part that's easy to miss. At the end of each cycle, there's no real pause, no moment where the expense disappears. It just rolls forward into the next car, the next payment, the next 5 years. And most people don't notice this part. Because from the outside, it looks responsible. Driving a newer car, avoiding major repairs, keeping things predictable. There's logic to it, real logic. But there's also a system underneath it, one that keeps the expense permanent instead of temporary. And this connects to something deeper, not numbers, behavior. A few weeks later, he's out with a friend. They're sitting at a casual restaurant. The conversation drifts, as it usually does, toward work, then money, then life. His friend mentions just paying off their car. There's a brief pause, because that moment feels different. No payment, no immediate plan to replace it. Just ownership. And that creates a subtle contrast. Not dramatic, just noticeable. Because for most people, the goal isn't to own the car, it's to manage the payment, to keep it within a comfortable range, to make it fit. And that mindset changes the entire decision. Because now the question isn't, do I need a new car? It becomes, can I afford this monthly number? And those are very different questions. There's also something social here, something quiet. Most people around him are doing the same thing, upgrading every few years, driving something relatively new. It becomes the baseline, not a luxury, just normal. And when something becomes normal, it stops being questioned. But this is where it gets interesting, because the real impact doesn't show up immediately. It shows up in what's missing. Over those same 20 years, that consistent $400 to $500 monthly payment could have gone somewhere else. Not invested aggressively, not optimized perfectly, just redirected. Even at a modest return, that amount builds, slowly, quietly, into something that creates options. But in this cycle, that option never exists, because the payment never ends. And it doesn't feel like a loss. That's the key. It feels like stability, like predictability, like control. But it's a very specific kind of control, one that trades flexibility for consistency. Years pass. The pattern continues. Different car, different features, same structure, same feeling. One evening, he's driving home. Traffic is slow. The car is smooth, comfortable, reliable, everything it's supposed to be. But his mind drifts, not to the car, to time, because something else has started to feel tight. Not money exactly, just room. Room to change jobs, room to take a break, room to say no. And this is where the long-term effect becomes visible, not in the car itself, but in everything around it. Because fixed monthly costs do something subtle. They anchor you, not aggressively, not obviously, but consistently. They create a baseline you have to maintain, every month, no matter what. And the more of those you have, the less flexible everything else becomes. The car payment is just one piece, but it's one that almost never disappears. And that's what makes it different. He gets home, parks the car, sits for a moment before turning it off. There's nothing wrong, nothing urgent, just a quiet awareness that the pattern is still running, exactly as designed. And this is where the perspective starts to shift, not dramatically, just slightly, because some people approach this differently. Not better, not smarter, just differently. They don't see a car as something that needs to be refreshed on a schedule. They see it as something that serves a purpose. And once that purpose is met, they keep it. Not out of discipline, not out of sacrifice, just because the pressure to replace it isn't there. And over time, that creates something subtle. Gaps. Moments where the payment doesn't exist, where the money stays, where options slowly expand. It doesn't mean never buying a new car. It doesn't mean driving something old forever. It just means the timing isn't automatic. It isn't every 5 years. It isn't expected. And that small difference compounds, quietly, over time. A few months later, that same email comes in again. Your vehicle trade-in value has been updated. He looks at it, but this time, something is different. The number still looks good. The opportunity is still there. Nothing has changed on the outside, but the pattern is visible now. He knows what happens next. The dealership, the upgrade, the new payment, the next 5 years. And for a moment, he just lets the email sit there, unread, not ignored, just paused. Because this time, it's not just a number, It's a decision point about the car, about the cycle. And that's the part most people never really see, because the system is designed to feel normal, predictable, even responsible. But once you notice it, it's hard to unsee. This is not financial advice. And as he sits there, phone still in his hand, he realizes something simple. Nothing is forcing him to decide tonight. Nothing is urgent. Nothing is broken. And that space, that small gap between the trigger and the action, that's where things begin to change. Not quickly, not dramatically, but enough. If this helped clarify things, consider subscribing.